I asked ChatGPT to create a JavaScript framework to see if it could really take our jobs. And if not take our jobs, at least make sure JavaScript developers won't waste as much time working on JavaScript frameworks. And boom, here are the amazing results. But actually, this code doesn't even work at all and can't even run without errors. I started by telling it to create a complete JavaScript framework that's fast pre-rendering, good SEO, and SSR along with an API. I even suggested it to make it serverless, which would make it a real Next.js competitor. And then went on rambling on this entire setup and what technology choices it would choose. But eventually I stumbled upon that I would use Next.js, and that's exactly what I did not want it to do. I wanted it to either make something better than Next.js or expand upon it. At least it did really go in depth, but most of the time AI is more talk than actually coding, so let's actually see what it can get done. I even had to tell it that Next.js can't do pre-rendering, so it would have to change its technology choices and create it by scratch, which is actually what I wanted it to do in the first place. It continued to ramble on all the strategies, explaining why they would work, and then it showed me the amazing file structure that I would eventually have to recreate to actually test the code. So far it looked pretty good, even though a little bit messy, but that's mainly due to the lack of node modules. I had to tell it to make some small adjustments, for example telling it to make it run from the same port, and it would adjust accordingly, explaining its new implementation. And I then asked it again to show the entire code so I could then test it. I had to confirm that the interactive content would be pre-rendered just to make sure it was doing it correctly, because so far it seemed too good to be true. I even had to point out that in the directions it told me to run npm start and also npm run pre-render, but they would actually have to occur at the same exact time in order for that to work. Here were its original instructions I was referring to. It then told me I would have to install concurrently, which funny enough is a dependency I had to use when I created my own JavaScript framework. And eventually it came up with a new command npm run star and pre-render. Not the best, but I guess it would work. But then came our first deadly error I had to point out. The JSX that was used in one of the files simply was not working. It noted that the JSX was not being correctly compiled and told me to install some Babel presets, configure them, and eventually also update our Webpack configuration. Lovely. And then told me again that I could run the server and that it should work. It didn't even say npm run start and pre-render, which is what I said earlier, but oh well. I think this is when all hell broke loose, because I realized that we still need to install Babel preset env. But afterwards it actually had a successful build and I was pretty excited to see what would happen. But afterwards it got something pretty weird, because it said that we could not use an import statement outside a module, but I thought correctly configured my modules. So then I made a manual change to our package.json to make sure it would say type of module. And this may have been my own error, causing the brilliant AI JavaScript framework to fail. But this change seemed to fix the error but cause a new one, because I would use require statements in other parts, so I had to fix that too. For example, here I commented out my original require statements and added import once to fix that problem, which I thought would work pretty well. After then building it again, we would then get modules not defined in ES module scope, and I had no idea how to fix that, because for as much as I knew, we were in the ES module scope. And then nowhere we were even using require.js anymore, so I couldn't even find a way that this was conflicting. At this point I decided to just call it a day, because I realized that AI already made an original mistake and I could just blame it on that. I guess we'll never know if Presto.js could have been a success in the next huge JavaScript framework, but my laziness and incompetence paired with the AI's own made sure that it never got off the ground. I wonder what you guys think, if AI is actually capable of building something like a JavaScript framework. If there's so many JavaScript devs that can do it, then I don't see a reason why AI can't. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Hopefully you subscribe. Like always, bye bye.